Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Way of Mercy Monk. So if you like what we do here, please like, share, and subscribe. Please keep commenting. We love to hear what you guys are doing with your builds, with your games, and some of the great experiences you've had with some of these classes. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. The Way of Mercy Monk comes to us from Tashas' Cauldron of Everything. This is a very interesting subclass. I think it's a really good subclass. I think it gives you a variety of things that you can do while still encroaching on this great visual identity of a very evil and cryptic looking monk. It's very cool. A lot of the imagery you'll see about this monk, if you look up other videos, it's going to be a lot of things that look like plague doctors. Even the Tashas Cauldron of Everything fan art, like the Wizard's fan art, is really someone who looks like a plague doctor. And it really plays into that role. And if you don't know what a plague doctor is, it is awesome. Do lots of research on it. You will not be disappointed. But it was basically a doctor during the Black Plague, and what they did was they didn't necessarily cure anybody. A lot of times they tried experiments to do whatever they could, and they handled really disposing of a lot of the diseased people. So it was a very bad thing if you saw plague doctors walking into your town, and that is a wonderful imagery for the monk, which is usually depicted as this great, wonderful, like heroic type of character with a good moral compass, where you really get that opportunity to not exactly be a good thing. Like, yeah, you're a doctor and you can save lives, and that kind of theory really holds true, but you don't necessarily save them. And sometimes you have to make the hard choice, and that really comes through in the subclass, which is why I really enjoy it. I think it really elevates the monk to a newer level, and I really wish some of the other subclasses really reflected that. At 3rd level, you gain access to Implements of Mercy. When you choose this tradition at 3rd level, you gain proficiency in Insight and Medicine skills. You gain proficiency with the Herbalism kit, and you also gain a very special mask. This is where that Plague Doctor-esque look tends to show up a lot. The first option they give you is the Raven. That's really as close as you're going to get to the Plague Doctor mask, because the Plague Doctor mask looks like it has a long beak, and it's very almost evil looking, and that's why the Raven kind of best represents that, because they're all traditionally really black. You also get an option for black and white, a crying visage, a laughing visage, a skull, or a butterfly. Personally, I obviously would love to take the laughing visage or the black and white, as we use for the thumbnail. There's a lot of great things you can come up with, but understand your mask should really reflect a big portion of to who your character is. That mask should be a representation. That is the first thing people see when they see your Way of Mercy monk. Is he diabolical? Is he like fey and like glorious? Is he like evil and death oriented? Is it a skull? Is it a laughing visage crying? Just some sort of duality of the person? Like, you can really help build your character and reflect those things very subtly in how you pick your mask. It should be important to you. It should be like a Rorschach from Watchmen kind of relationship with your mask. It should be that representative of to who and what you are. Are you a plague doctor? Are you some sort of like fey hero? That really matters for your character, and it should work with them. At 3rd level, you also gain access to Hands of Healing. Your mystical touch can mend wounds. As an action, you can spend 1 key point and touch a creature and restore a number of hit points equal to 1 roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier. When you use Flurry of Blows, you can replace one of the unarmed strikes with the use of this feature without spending a key point for the healing. This is a great setup. This really helps you build the monk in a way that's a little bit different than most of the time. Usually everyone just goes straight up dexterity and then constitution, but ignoring wisdom is really in not your best interest. You get unarmored defense as a monk, so you get AC equal to your dexterity plus your wisdom modifier. Plus you add those two to 10, which would give you whatever you end up being. Yeah, if you make 5 in each wisdom and dexterity, you would have an AC of 20, which is incredible. But those things are really complementary to the monk. also stunning strike, the DC save scales with your wisdom modifier. So there is a couple of reasons already built into the monk to make you want to use your wisdom and boost it up when you can. This really helps you understand that and really incorporates that and makes you want to do that. Yeah, you get healing, and it's not a huge amount. It does scale as you level, but it's never going to be anything like cure wounds or anything like that. But one key point to bring somebody up from unconscious is very, very good, especially if you don't have healers that can bring them up, considering where they are located in the battlefield because of a trap or something. This is a great way to save some people or to keep some people going or maybe mitigate some of the damage they're taking. It encourages you to really understand what that means when you're adding wisdom. Your perception goes up, your insight, which you're proficient in, it's great. Your medicine checks go up. It really reflects the class very, very well, and it's subtle. Yeah, the side bonuses besides perception and insight, but it gives you a good reason and encourages you to keep pumping up wisdom alongside dexterity. The final ability you get at 3rd level is Hands of Harm. You use your key to inflict wounds. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can spend 1 key point to deal extra necrotic damage equal to 1 roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier. You can use this feature only once per turn. This is a great way to just add on damage when you need it. You can do flurry of blows and you can tack this on, so that's a pretty substantial amount of damage that you can do per round. Yes, it's 1 key point and you get it at level 3, so you don't have that many key points, but if you're really focusing on dealing damage, this works out really, really well. Now, understand, it is increased by your wisdom modifier as well. You do not need to make a roll for this, it just adds on to that damage. Again, earlier I mentioned upping wisdom when you can. Really build out your character, really try and understand how far the game is going to go level wise so you can compensate where your ability score increases go. If you have to have a 4 in something, it is not the end of the world. It is pretty good. Everything doesn't have to be maxed out. You want to be able to do great things. You want to get yourself as balanced as possible. If all you do is one thing, you're going to feel pretty repetitive, and sometimes that gets annoying. Maybe it doesn't. A lot of the times I like to feel if I can do multiple things or have different options, it makes me more interested in the things that I can do and makes me think about my character more and helps me develop that great love for the characters that I do play. So I encourage you, really look at yourself as your character and try and build your character further out. You don't have to be a min-maxer, but understand if you're only going up X amount of levels, maybe you should choose some of these ASIs to where you might think it might be more beneficial to do so. And then sometimes that doesn't always mean your offensive dexterity for a monk. At 6th level, you gain access to Physician's Touch. You can administer even greater cures with a touch, and if you feel if it's necessary, you can use your knowledge to cause harm. When you use your Hands of Healing on a creature, you can also end 1 disease of the following conditions affecting the creature: blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned. When you use the Hands of Harm on a creature, you can subject that creature to the poison condition until the end of your next turn. Now, you can use Hands of Healing in contrast to one of the unarmed strikes of Flurry of Blows. So you can save someone really quickly just by, punch, 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 heal, punch. Like, it works out very, very well. It gives you this great opportunity to support the people around you. Paralyzed, stunned, those are devastated. Blinded, those are horrific conditions for one of your party members to have. The enemies will chew them up alive if they have those conditions. That's put on the wrong player. That might be very, very bad for your party and might result in some devastating expenditure of everything. Maybe you have to retreat, and maybe that's something that nobody ever does, so most of the time we end up in TPK scenarios because we just refuse to give up. This is a great way to avoid some of those things. So, yeah, I say it all the time, you don't always have to heal your party, you don't always have to spend every resource you have on supporting your party. You can use some of those abilities for your own, this is a perfect example of what your key means to you and who your character is. Are you going to save party members, or are you going to use it to help damage out enemies? Yes, taking enemies off the board quickly will guarantee you will win a fight. But sometimes you have to make that one turn or one action into something that's more supportive. And depending on how you play those out, it's a fun dynamic because nobody expects the monk to heal constantly. Nobody expects the monk to be removing conditions. So this gives you that opportunity where you can use it and you don't have to be expected to use it. You can use it at your own volition and it's your choice to do so. And it really reflects that real plague doctor-esque kind of mentality. Is this person worth saving, or is it better for me just to put them down? You know, like, is the disease going to spread if this person keeps moving, or can I just administer this cure to them and move them forward and move us all forward through this encounter? Using Hands of Harm to cause the poison condition. I love the poison condition. It is great. It is fun. There's a lot of times where you get additional things added on to certain status ailments. In this scenario, they just have disadvantage on attack rolls. If you're fighting a melee big guy, like a big boss or a mid boss or something that's just running at you guys with a sword and just making multiple attacks, one round of being poisoned is going to make a huge difference in what they'll be able to hit and the circumstances. Don't get me wrong, sometimes people hit with disadvantage and it's nothing you can do. But this will help mitigate that. This makes a big impact, especially if you have to run away. Because then they have disadvantage on hitting anybody, so they can use their reactions. You can burn someone's reaction and make them take attacks at you, and you might survive because they're poisoned, or maybe you have a lot of health and someone else doesn't have to risk that. Maybe they can heal. Maybe you have a paladin that's in the front line that's really about to drop. You take that opportunity strike and they can just run away and use their action to heal. You can do risky things like that. It is fun and it's great to see that, and it's great to understand that dynamic that it creates now within the party, because really that was that opportunity that the paladin got to save themselves, and it was because of a sacrifice you made, and you kind of mitigated that by poisoning them first. Thinking about their abilities, looking at things like that, you can really use this to your advantage. Poison is a great condition. Just don't use it on undead or fiends and it'll basically work. Undead and fiends are usually immune or are very resistant, but this is also no save, so if they're not immune, they can be poisoned. At 11th level, you gain access to Flurry of Healing and Harm. You can now met out a Fury of Comfort and Hurt. When you use Flurry of Blows, you can now replace each of the unarmed strikes with the use of Hand of Healing without expending a key point of healing. In addition, when you make unarmed strikes with Flurry of Blows, you can use your Hand of Harm with that strike without expending key points for the Hands of Harm. You can still use Hands of Harm only once per turn. Now, you can ramp up your healing by doing this. You can do I believe it's a D10 at this point, a D8, plus your Wisdom modifier twice. And that's pretty decent for someone who doesn't do any healing. Also, you end conditions on someone, so if someone happens to have multiple conditions on them, that's a great way to mitigate them anyway. In addition, when you use Hands of Harm, and you do finally get the ability to add that to your Flurry of Blows, it really changes the dynamic of using it, because it's now your unarmed strikes are magical, so you are breaking through resistance. So you really have to see if there's a reason to use necrotic damage. That's really what it is. You are using Hands of Harm with that strike. You are not replacing a strike with Hands of Harm. So when you use Flurry of Blows, you get your normal regular attack, which is 2, plus your bonus action that you're using Flurry of Blows on, which gives you 2 more, which then you add Hands of Harm on top of. So you are now hitting 5 times, which is a lot. And that's really the appeal, because now you're at 11th level, you can spend key points significantly more frequently, especially if you know that a short rest is coming, or you have a party member that has catnap and is just willing to give that to you whenever someone else is using a ritual or using something to spend time to figure something out. You will run through some enemies with that. It is very, very strong to have 5 hits on you. You can also use stunning strikes on any of the 4 hits beforehand. Your wisdom modifier should be a little bit higher. Yeah, constitution is a hard saving throw, but stunning someone will greatly shift things in your favor. So you have a lot of options to play with, which is something that's really unique for someone that just basically runs up and punches everything. At 17th level, you gain access to Hand of Ultimate Mercy, which is the final Way of Mercy monk ability. Your mastery of life opens the door to the ultimate mercy. As an action, you can touch the corpse of a creature that died within the past 24 hours and expend 5 key points. The creature then returns to life, regaining a number of hit points equal to 4d10 plus your wisdom modifier. If the creature died while subject to any of the following conditions, it revives with them removed: blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, and stunned. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. At 17th level, normally you should have a certain group of people that are capable of resurrecting your party members or anyone that you deem is worthy. So with that in mind, a lot of the times you don't always have more than one. So when they go down, what do? This answers that question. This puts you in that wonderful scenario where you're a great, positive, supporting character in your party. Because for 5 key points that you can get on a short rest, you can definitely heal someone and bring them back. And that makes a very big difference. Especially when you're at 17th level, where damage is wild. It's very difficult for a lot of people to balance fights. And if rolls go the wrong way for the players, any fight can really end up very badly. Again, a lot of times you won't ever see combat this high. If you do, thank your DM for the awesome work that they've done. But this is something that's really important because the stakes get higher. You don't know which fights are what, or whether they're going to be easy or not, or if you're actually capable of winning any of these fights. A couple of bad rolls on your side and a couple of good rolls on the DM side, high end play, like that's it. Like there's really nothing much you can do. It starts to snowball fast. And it's understandable for some of these enemies to be smart enough to hit some of the squishier characters first, or be casters that can cast Hold Person on your party members, blindness, deafness, and things like that, and really give you a run for your money. You don't know when those things are going to happen, but if combat needs to be challenging at this level, it can be deadly. This gives you a little bit of a cushion to get that one important person who can resurrect other people back to life. That's really what it is. This is the one moment where maybe you hide off and the enemies that scurry away and you come back and you just bang, 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 bang and heal everybody else up. It's a powerful ability to bring any character back from the dead. Normally you have to do it in a minute. This gives you some time because you have 24 hours. That is very, very big. So you can drag people off into safety and then do it. And at 17th level, you have 17 key points. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You've probably burned through a lot of Flurry of Blows, adding Hands of Harm to that. So you do have a lot of understanding of what you can do per action with your key points. Saving some of them for something like this is definitely worthwhile if you're in that kind of a scenario. The Way of Mercy Monk is a very cool subclass. I really like the idea that it gives you this great visual dynamic of this character right from Jump Street. And that really, really speaks out to me because I like subtle things that affect what my character looks like, acts like, and does. It's a good feeling to know that these subclass abilities really work well with the duality of healing and harm. and placing yourself as that point in the middle where you can decide to play this class any couple of ways you want. You can go straight healing, you can go straight hands of harm, or you can jump in between and have it be part of like your character's journey. Maybe on darker times they lean significantly more towards their hands of harm, or when things are better, when something like victory's at hand, or something, or they feel joyous, or they want to help. They really want to help whatever cause you're on, they'll use more hands of healing. And making that really matter to your character is a great option to make your character that much more interesting to you and more human. You build layers to your character. You make your character feel things and go on with those abilities if you're a role-playing kind of a character. And this gives you a great way to use that throughout the game, not just in role-playing or just in searching around and adventuring, but actual combat too. It's cool. Being able to bring somebody back from the dead is a good failsafe, though myself, I'd probably be burning through Flurry of Harm constantly. I just like that idea, and I would definitely be poisoning everything I could get my hands on. Again, not always opportune, but there's just something about that just, it really speaks to me. I like the idea of maybe you don't ever use punches and kicks. Maybe you make your nails really sharp and use them as claws. Like, you know, maybe really work with what your character looks like, and try and do something gross. Like maybe you just sat down and you just shaved off all the skin and muscle from the tips of your fingers, and it's just hardened bone. Like you're a crazy person, and that's really scary, but that's really, really cool. Maybe you're a reborn and you lost your hands, and that's just like, it's just phantom matter and like glass and steel that you just put in a glove to hold together. That's a cool concept, you know? Like you can create a lot of great things, and then it reflects so well in the subclasses' abilities that you feel good about it. It all works, and it always feels like it's always pulling together, which is a nice feeling. So again, monks are actually really not a terrible class. I know a lot of the times they get a lot of negative feedback. I think this one really brings the monk a little bit closer to the forefront, especially if you're not going ultra high levels, because Flurry of Harm is an incredibly big damage boost. Hands of Mercy you probably won't see very often, so I wouldn't really be too worried about it, and you have a lot of ability to play with the other abilities. Unarmored Defense is great, Stunning Strike is great, Step of the Wind is great. You get a lot of, you're just anti-range projectile. Like there's a lot of great things you get. Don't sleep on this class. I know a lot of times, again, people are just not interested. They just completely skip over the monk because they'd rather be wielding a sword or casting magic. But this makes the monk a little bit more different and special and exciting, because it's not something you will see often. So really give it a chance. And thank you so much for making it this far into the video. With that, we're going to take this to an end. Big shout out to everyone for sticking with us and showing us all this love and appreciation. We absolutely love every one of you guys. Thank you so much for everything, all the commenting, all the games, all the information you've shared, all the characters you've played. And thank you for giving a Spooky Kid a chance.